Welcome to the Positively You podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Larson, and I'm passionate about helping you shift the way you think so you can create a life you're absolutely obsessed with. Each week, I'll be bringing you a guest or a thought that's going to help you feel more optimistic and equipped to take real action. Get ready to push past limiting beliefs, ditch that negativity, and start showing up as the best and most positive version of you. Girl, let's do this. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Positively You podcast. It's Jessie, your host over here. If this is your very first time tuning in, welcome. And if it's not, if you are a regular repeater over here, thank you so much. I absolutely love having you a part of this little positive community. So let's get into today. You guys, the topic that I want to talk about is vulnerability. And this has been on my mind for the past couple of weeks a little bit. Actually, let's be real. The topic of vulnerability has probably been around, especially if you're listening to this podcast and like other like personal development, self-help, like in this kind of realm, the topic of vulnerability or the idea or even the word has been popped around a lot, made really, really famous by Brene Brown, right? So I think that it's been a topic and a word that has kind of been in the area, in the realm of things. And we've all kind of made, I don't want to loop us all into a thing, but I feel like there's been like this conscious effort, right, to be more vulnerable, to be more authentic. We've definitely seen that shift in like social media, from like Instagram to having like these like incredibly perfect and curated feeds to getting a little bit more quote unquote real and authentic. But as I've been thinking about vulnerability and actually experiencing a different kind of vulnerability myself, I personally was missing the mark a little bit about what I thought being vulnerable was versus, oh wow, this is actually vulnerability. And to not say that there's a right way or a wrong way of doing it. I think with anything, there's like levels and degrees, and there's a spectrum of like how you can experience certain things. And I think that is true for vulnerability. So what I mean by that is I think we got away from like showing up with a mask on, and with this like perfectly polished face and only showing our highlight reels and only doing that, right? We showed up with our walls up, with our guards up, with a presentation to the people around us that we wanted them to view us as. And there's not a lot wrong with that, like, right? Like, it's okay to want to put your best foot forward. It's okay to, want to show the good things in your life and all of that. And so then I think we heard of vulnerability and being like, okay, I got to wash all that away. And it became showing the hardships and showing the hard parts and showing like, see, I am just a mom with a messy house and all of this is real. And so we flipped a little bit, but instead of being vulnerable, I think we just started showing the crap and calling that vulnerability. Like, oh, if I don't show that I'm perfect, if I show that like I'm actually kind of a hot mess, like that's me being vulnerable. And yes, it is showing, it's taking down those walls a little bit. It is opening up that door to be like, see, look, I'm human. But it's like the surface. It's like scratching the surface on vulnerability. And I learned this when I literally was cracked open and allowed people to like really, really see me, not just see my mess and my messy house and my chaotic schedule and me without makeup on, but to like see my soul, to see my talents, to see what I'm really good at. Can we talk about that for a second? I think a huge part of vulnerability is showing up like in what we're really good at. And not in the way of like, of how we were doing, right, with curated feeds or like showing up with our perfectly polished self, but showing up in a way of like, this is my gift. This is my talent. I'm really good at this, and allowing people to see that, to be unapologetically you within like your gifts and your talents. I'll tell you what, that type of vulnerability is really, really scary. And when I first kind of started feeling that and diving into that type of vulnerability was when I started diving into human design, and that was a really fun avenue for me to kind of explore this level of vulnerability. And then I got a professional human design reading done, and I've talked about this before, probably last episode, and I'll go more into depth on it. But it was interesting because I sat there on a call with somebody going over my chart and going through everything that's like, human design is crazy because there's all of these like gates and channels and things, and some are lit up for some people and some are not, and there's different things highlighted and they mean all these different things. Like, it's a crazy little thing, big thing. And it was really, really interesting to sit there and talk to somebody and be like, this means this, and you're really good at this, and this means that you've got a strong like talent here, and this is where you really shine. And this, to have someone tell you not what your talents are, but to confirm kind of things that you already know about yourself, and to be like, and I've seen you do this, and this is where you shine, and this is where you make a huge difference in the lives of people around you. That's really vulnerable, right? Like, that's way more vulnerable than like, oh, welcome to my house. Sorry, it's messy. My kids live here. Ha ha, jokes, to really cracking open of like, what makes you feel alive? And when you do this, like, the world is so aligned for you, and this is where you light up. And what's cool is because you kind of know these things about yourself, so it's cool to be seen. Being seen fully by another human being is a very cool experience. And when you are fully, fully seen by somebody, you realize how infrequent that actually happens in our life. And that's something where I'm like, I love that feeling so much now that I've experienced it a couple different times recently, that I want to feel it more. Like, I want walls down. I want to be wide open for the right people, right? And I want to be able to like pull that and give that gift to other people, because being fully seen and being fully vulnerable and loved in that has been one of the coolest experiences of my life recently, or ever. It's very, very cool. And so I really want to like challenge us to dig deeper and go deeper with this idea of vulnerability. I love that we are cracking that door open, that we're like, listen, we don't have to be putting on a show all the time. We don't have to be performing. We don't have to be showing up how we think other people want us to show up, to be accepted, to be asked to sit at these tables. I want that vulnerability conversation to be, this is me with like just me. I'm not performing. I'm not trying to fit in. I'm not trying to mold myself. And to be seen fully like that, that is true vulnerability. And it is so cool and healing and exciting to feel. And kind of scary, because you're like, hello, I'm wide open and there's nothing like protecting me. Like, this is me. And wow, that feels like a lot. It feels very exposing. I had the opportunity to do like a breath work session and stuff. And at the end of this particular one we were partnered up with somebody who I just met. It wasn't like it was a deep connecting friendship or something. And we had to make eye contact for like a very long time, an uncomfortably long time. And I felt myself kind of wanting to laugh because it was awkward, but then like being like, no, I'm going to be fully into this. And wow, that was an experience. Everyone should experience that at some point, because it is crazy to, for yourself to be like staring down somebody, like not in a bad way, but like literally like peering in, soul piercing through their eyes. And at the same time, they're doing that back to you. And you're just like, okay, like we are seeing each other. And it was really cool. Really, really cool. So this idea of vulnerability, I'm going to like really challenge this year to go deeper. As I told you guys in the last episode, and as I've talked about on social media, maybe a little bit, I haven't been super active over there. I've been really in, you guys know, I've been really in my winter and my rest, and it's been awesome. I've actually really loved it. Just like saying no to a lot of things and being kind of a recluse and I'm like a hibernating bear. That's like my spirit animal right now, is this like hibernating bear. And I love it. But my word for this year has been discover, and diving deeper and discovering more about myself and other people, and really pushing the envelope on vulnerability. I think is going to be a key theme for me this year. So as I'm doing that, as you guys know, I love pulling you along with the things that I'm doing here. And I like knowing what you're doing too. So, if there's been a word that you're like, let's peel back more here. Let's go deeper than this surface level. So that's kind of my invitation to you, to even just get you thinking about vulnerability and what vulnerability means to you, and how open and vulnerable you are with yourself, number one, because that's also very interesting. And I think sometimes we might be more open with other people than we are with our actual self. Like sometimes we don't even show up fully vulnerable to ourselves. Isn't that crazy? Maybe that's just me. Where like you're scared, like if it's silent and we're just scared to be with ourselves and with our own thoughts because we're like, what's going to pop up? So being vulnerable just with yourself, being vulnerable with people that you know, being vulnerable with strangers. I think really, really, sometimes we think vulnerability, right, is showing our shortcomings and showing like, oh, see, I'm human. I'm not perfect. Here's where I'm struggling. Here's where I'm this. I think a big part of vulnerability is sharing where our strengths are, honestly, and showing our wins and showing our gifts and leaning into those unique traits and gifts that make you you. That is a huge, huge part of vulnerability, is fully owning you in your power, in your strengths. We've gone that way of our weaknesses and showing our vulnerability there, but I want to like flip it and go the other way, because I think there's a lot of power and a lot of learning and a lot of like, oh shit, this is kind of scary feelings in that. So yeah, there's my kind of just vomiting all the words up thoughts on vulnerability for you. And I figured if I'm going to be verbally processing this out loud, I might as well invite you in to the thoughts in my head and record a podcast. So there you go. I hope you got something out of this, and it kind of gets those wheels turning a little bit and triggers some thoughts in you to kind of think about. So, and I personally would love to know what those thoughts are. I've been connecting with a number of you through DMs, through Marco Polo. If you guys like to like visually talk back and forth, seriously DM me and let me know. And I would love to Marco Polo back with you, or voice message back. That's another level of vulnerability, right? I used to be, okay, I'm going to confess something here. I think I've confessed it before on here, but here we go. Here's another one. Filters. I love a good filter on Instagram. I won't lie. I do. It's so nice sometimes when you're just not feeling your greatest and you slap one on and you're like, okay, I can show up now. And they became a huge crutch for me. A huge crutch where I would not show up on Instagram stories without a filter. And so then when I started having conversations with people on Marco Polo, Marco Polo doesn't have good filters. We'll just put it there. And I was like, oh, hey, look, I'm like a completely different person on Marco Polo than I am on Instagram. Not really, but I was showing up more vulnerable just in my facial appearance. Guys, I hate admitting that. But I got to have really good conversations over there. And if I was nervous, anyway, that's a weird little side tangent. But we have these things that are our little crutches that keep us safe, that keep us like just sheltered enough from the people from seeing the real me, right? Like, who cares that I have a freaking blemish on my skin, or my skin's not like this perfectly blah, blah, blah filter. No one's is. And we're all showing up with so many layers to ourselves. And so if we can just start peeling those back, you guys, it's the coolest experience to be fully yourself and to see someone else as fully themselves and be like, you're a kick-ass human being and I'm a kick-ass human being. And we've just gotten so comfortable. Like how comfortable I was putting a filter on. I was so comfortable. And I had to challenge myself to be like, no more. We are going to show up without a filter. And that was like little teeny step one, right? Such a funny thing. Such a funny thing. I was using a filter so much as a crutch. I hate admitting that. I really do, but it's okay. And yeah, we are cool. Humans are cool. You are cool. And I want to get to know you. Like, what makes you tick? What makes you, like, really come alive? What are the things that get you laughing to the point of crying? What are the things that just light you up? What are you really good at? You know? Like, these deep, deep things that are individual and unique to us. Oh, gosh, I love it. It lights me up. So, all right, we'll end this because I wanted this to be kind of a quick little episode, and now I'm just rambling. But thought of the day, vulnerability. Thought of the week, of the month, whatever. Vulnerability. I want to know your take on it. So please, seriously, I'll go over on stories and say that there's a new episode and come over and comment. Come over and leave me a DM. I'm at positively.jessie on Instagram. Or you can drop me an email, hello@jessielarson.com. I would love, love, love to hear your take on vulnerability, maybe what your crutches are, if you've got, a filter addiction like I did. And just your thoughts and diving deeper and what vulnerability means to you and where you practice it, or if you've had cool experiences with going deeper or whatever. Let's just talk all the things vulnerability. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we will be back next week with another one. Until then, I hope you have a fantastic day today. I hope you have a fantastic week, and my challenge is to let someone see the real you this week. All right, we'll see you later.
Thank you for hanging out with me again today. I'm so glad you pressed play. If you want to take a quick second to share this episode with someone you think would love it too, that would be amazing. If you're loving the show, make sure you go and leave a review on iTunes. Reviews are like magic for podcasts, and your review will help get this show into the ears of more amazing women just like you. And come find me over on Instagram. I'm there at positively.jessie, and I cannot wait to hang out with you some more. So until next time, have an amazing week.